Hello everyone and welcome to my new video. And what is this video about? Well, what I would like to do is explore some complex audio processing in Ableton using effects racks and lots of kind of chains of things. But then I want to be able to perform them, and I thought it would be interesting to find a way to perform them using MIDI. And I'm going to do that with the help of an abundance of all the available modulators in Live 12.1. If you have Live 11, Live 10, you might still be able to do this. I can't guarantee it. But what I'm going to look to do is to use them as sort of components, as modules, to create this very sort of large infrastructure of dynamic audio processing, to create this sort of sonic multi-effects instrument that you'll be able to kind of perform with, both whether you're making a track or performing a live set. You'll be able to really physically interact with it and have a huge amount of control over what happens. Now, this is going to be very much of a deep dive. It could be quite a long video because this is an incredibly fiddly process, but the results are quite rewarding in my opinion. So I hope you enjoy it. Now, what are the modulators? Let's remind ourselves. The modulators are things that use Max for Live to control things in your live set. So the one that we all know is the LFO. You get the LFO in, you click map, and then you click something like you're panning here, and then now that is being controlled by that LFO. I'm not really going to use those today. I'm more interested in things like the envelope MIDI, maybe the envelope MIDI and shaper MIDI, although I'll be calling them the MIDI envelope and the MIDI shaper because I think that makes more sense. And perhaps some other things like the expression control. These are all things that respond to MIDI, and I'm going to use these to create events, like kind of macroed events that will allow us to have some fun, kind of just jamming with our live set through loads of effects and stuff. So let's just kind of like have a look at something a little sort of simple to start with, but interesting nonetheless. So let's just start with this envelope MIDI. So what is the envelope MIDI? So what this does is this is an actual envelope. This is a four-stage envelope with attack, decay, sustain, release. And if you don't know what that is, I'll just tell you very quickly. The attack is how long it takes to get from here to here. The decay is how long it takes to get from here to here. The sustain is the level that which it will be at once it's finished decaying, and then the release is how long it takes to get from the sustain to the end. So attack, decay, sustain, release, like that. Now, you may have seen these everywhere. They're all over Ableton. They're all over synthesizers. They are like a fundamental core concept of synthesizers. If I load in operator, then there's one here. But we're not actually going to use it for synthesis. We're going to use it to control Ableton. So a good place to start would be if I was to first switch this to remote and then map that to say the volume on this track here. Now you'll see what happens. It's immediately dropped back down. Now I'm going to try and control this all with my QWERTY keyboard. So to do that, we have to turn that on up there. So now I'm triggering this envelope from my QWERTY keyboard. You can see what happens, right? As I trigger that note, the decay is going down very, 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 very slowly. That's because I've set the decay to 20 seconds. If I put it right down to something like 1 second, it's going to go down when I press the key and stop, because when it gets to the end of that envelope, it's just going to come to a stop like that. Now, I've let go of the MIDI key. If I press it again, you can see we're coming down like that. It's actually a little bit of a sort of, there's a bit of a curve there. Anyway, so if I was to actually sort of listen to that in context. So that loop is playing now. We can't hear it. But if I press a MIDI note, remember I'm using my QWERTY keyboard. I didn't think it was necessary to plug in a keyboard and rig up a camera. Just believe me, I'm pressing a MIDI key on the keyboard. I'm going to press the key. You'll hear this clip come in and then fade down. Like that. Let's make the envelope a little bit longer. That was quite short. Let's go for 2 seconds. Right, I'm going to do it again. Right. It's kind of interesting. And then when it comes to the end, when I let go, because the envelope is finished, then it'll just stay at the last value that it was at. Okay, that's fine. Let's delete that. Let's try something different. Let's put that back. And maybe what I want to do is I'm going to use that envelope again. Let's get a new one in. Where is it? MIDI envelope. Let's envelope MIDI. Let's put that there. And I'm going to use that to maybe send a little bit of this track into a reverb or a delay or something. So let's actually just put it into, let's do it with an echo. Let's get rid of this one. Let's get the echo in here. and put the echo in, and then let's just set the echo to something like 16th. Oh, there's notes and 16th notes. That's interesting. Anyway, let's put it to that. Okay, that looks about good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map now. I'm going to turn this to remote. I'm going to do this all using remote, not the mod thing. So let's click map and map that to the send here. So now when I press a MIDI key, it's going to flick that send up and send this track into this echo, right? So I've kind of got a MIDI controlled dub echo send. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, it did do it. Let's maybe just get our echo sounding a little bit brighter. Right. Okay. So when I press a MIDI note on my keyboard, it's turning up that send. Now you'll see what happens is that when I actually press that, I wonder if I could maybe just get a, let's get an audio, let's get a MIDI effect rack in here because we can use it. Oh, let's try the MIDI monitor maybe. Will that work? Let's put that there. Okay, so now you can see that I'm actually turning the key on and off. So you can see what happens when I press that. That actually sort of comes down to there. That's because it's reached the sustain stage, which is this part here, right? So if I was to change that now, you'll see that it's gone to a slightly different value. So the sustain stage is the level that it's at whilst I'm holding the key. Now, in this context, I don't want to use any sustain at all. So I'm going to turn that all the way down. In fact, I'm going to do a couple of other things. I'm going to turn velocity off so that the amount isn't predetermined by the velocity of the MIDI note. That's still really useful stuff. We might look at that later. Instead, I just want to have a simple decay envelope with no release, no sustain, no attack, maybe something like 1 second. Okay, so what will happen is when I press the MIDI note, watch here, that is going to jump from 0 all the way to full and then flick back down to 0 really quickly, like that. Right, that's perfect. Let's listen to it now with drum loop. Yeah. Right. So, okay, so another thing there, right, okay, was that I actually let go of the note a little bit early. So before the decay stage had finished, it dropped back to 0 anyway. No, so that is when the release could come in quite useful. So if I put the release to something like the same as the decay, no matter when I let go, it's still going to decay at the same rate, right? Another useful thing to know. I'm going to stick with maybe, I'm going to have a little bit of release, but not too much. Right, so and another way to demonstrate this is to maybe just draw in a MIDI note. So it doesn't matter what MIDI note it is in this context. Let's just draw this one in. Let's maybe make this a little bit longer so we can see what's going on here. Let's maybe do some of this stuff. Yeah, okay, I'm going to have to turn off my MIDI monitor. Let's just collapse the volume. Oh my God, where's me I/O gone? Oh my God, I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed by stuff. Okay, so I'm going to set that to monitor off, or auto rather. Okay, now let's watch it now. Right, so that MIDI note is controlling that. Pretty cool stuff, but I'll just keep using the keyboard for now. So now that we've got that, we could do some other things. We could stack up these into multiple chains and have a single event control different things. So let's do that. Let's bring the volumes back. So maybe I could use a different envelope entirely to have a different event that can control something else, but all part of the same event. So this is where I think things get really interesting, is when we can stack up these envelope MIDIs or MIDI envelopes and use a single MIDI note event to make something else happen. So for this, I'm going to get in another envelope MIDI here. And for this one, I'm going to use it to control both the send on the return track and either the volume or the mute of the return track. So what's going to happen then is that I'm going to send a little bit of this track into the return track, but hold the MIDI note and sort of get it to feed back on itself. And then when I let go, it's going to cancel all that out. So we can get a real sort of screaming dub thing. So I'm going to enable the sends here. Get my second envelope. We could name this if we want. We could call this one send, and we could call it, oh my God, we could call this one feedback or whatever. It's not important right now, but let's Okay, I need to monitor my QWERTY keyboard input. Right, so let's go to this one here. Let's put the amount all the way down, attack down, decay up, no, decay down, sustain up, and release down. So what this means is that when I'm holding the MIDI note, we're just going to get a simple on or off message. So now if I map that to say this send return here, when the key is off, it's down. When the key is that's interesting. So it's actually, I turn the amount down. Okay, let's turn the amount all the way back up and turn the velocity off. Domain thing there. Okay, watch again. When I press the key, it's going to go up full and I'm holding it. And then when I let go, it's going to drop back down. So I'm going to try the same thing with these devices. You can click this button here and have multiple mappings. So I'm going to map the same thing to the mute. So when I press the key, the track is unmuted and the send is up, and then when I let go, they both go back down, in conjunction with sending a little bit of this track into the return track. Let's see how that sounds. Wow, terrifying. So let's go back to this and just stick a limiter on here and watch that again. So I just pressed a key and held it and then let go. You know what we could do as well? We could also map the same sustain envelope to the feedback so that the feedback kind of gets cancelled out. Let's do that there. And then we could maybe set a maximum amount of, say, 75%. That way it's going to kind of wipe the feedback loop. Yeah, dub, fucking dub. Yeah, so I'm just pressing buttons. I'm just pressing buttons. Look, Mum, I do music. I press buttons. I can hold that forever and ever. And then at any point I want to let go, it's gone. Beautiful. So that is, like, I think just really useful. Now you could be thinking, well, why don't you just use automation? Yes, you could use automation, but if you actually wanted to do that with automation in the arrange page, it would be quite a lot to keep on top of. You'd have at least 4 modulation lanes. So essentially what we're doing is swapping out the concept of modulation in the timeline and turning it into a MIDI event, which is where I think this stuff gets really interesting. So we could maybe take another of one of these modulators and map that to something else. Let's have a look at this shaper MIDI. So this is similar to the envelope MIDI, but what this actually does is that this allows you to make like a sort of breakpoint, a multi-stage function or a multi-stage envelope, breakpoint envelope function generator thing. And you can also get this to loop, I think. So when this, yeah, so there is a loop button here, which is really good, or it can be a one-stage thing. So when I press the key, let's maybe turn the rate down to something like 1 bar. So when I press a key, it's going to advance through the stages of this envelope, and you can see that represented here like that. So it goes down, come back up, and then it jumps back down, and then it comes to a dead stop because it comes to that last value there. So if I move that last point all the way to the top and we watch it again, we're going to come all the way down, it's going to go right up to the top, and it's going to stay like that. I think you can hold shift. I can't remember how you delete points. It's shift. Hold shift and you can delete a point. So if you turn loop on, then you can trigger that and then it'll go through its stage and then it'll start going again. So we could map that to something like, just for fun, we could map it to the delay time. Let's see what that's like. And then when I let go, it stops. So that was pretty cool, but that is really only just the start of it. And this is now when we're going to get really deep. We're going to go deep, 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 deep. We're going to go deep, 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 deep into Ableton. I'm going to keep that track there so that when I put this on Patreon later, you can sort of have access to that. And whilst I'm at it, I'm going to name this track like and subscribe. And so, yeah, so later on when you go and get this from Patreon, you'll be able to sort of see what I did there. Maybe you'll find that quite useful. But now I want to get into something like a little bit more deep. So I'm just going to mute that for now, and I might actually just sort of move it out of the way. And now I'm going to make a new MIDI track. And I'm basically going to do a lot of the same thing, but I want to make like a complex rack of stuff that I can use as an insert for other things. It could go on the master. It could go on a single instrument. That example I just did there was using a return track, which I like very much. But now I want to look at some inserts. So I am going to get another envelope MIDI. I'm going to drop it onto this track here. And whilst we're at it, why don't we put that MIDI monitor thing was quite useful. Where is it? Let's put the MIDI monitor in so that you can see. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's monitor that. So you can see what notes I'm pressing. That's going to be quite useful. Very good. So yeah, I'm now going to basically have a different effects mapped out across the keyboard. So when I press this key, it's going to be one type of effect. When I press this key, it's going to be another type of effect. And then when there's no keys, it's just going to be the dry signal. So let's concentrate on the dry signal first. Let's turn this envelope MIDI to remote. Let's turn the velocity off, attack down, decay down, sustain up, release down, maybe a little bit of release. I don't think it really matters. And then let's go to the track where we want this to happen. So I'm just going to do this on this track here. So I'm going to get a audio effect rack and put that in there and open out all the chains. I'm going to create a chain, and this one is going to be dry. And then I'm going to create another chain, and this one we'll call effects. And let's go into the chain selector. Now, we are going to do lots of racks inside racks inside racks. Once you kind of understand where I'm going, you might want to do it completely differently, and that's fine. This is just the idea that came to me, and I might get halfway through it and think, actually, there might have been a better way to do this. I don't know. But we're basically going to use this first envelope MIDI here to switch between these two chains. The first chain, which will be the off state, will be the dry, unaffected sound, and then the on state will be this chain, which is going to have loads and loads of effects in it. So simply all we need to do is open out our macros here. We're going to nudge this first chain forward one. If I can make this bigger, large, there we go. So this first chain is on number 0 and this one is on number 1. I'm going to right click the chain selector here, this thing, which you can click and drag. I'm going to right click that. I'm going to go map to macro 1, and I'm going to call that, we could call it chain selector. I'm just going to call it on/off. And then if we go into the map button and go to our on/off range, we only need it to go from 0 to 1. Right. We can close that now. Okay. So now let's go back to our envelope MIDI here, which we could name this on/off as well, so that we can keep track, because it does get quite fiddly and it is a little bit much to sort of bounce back and forth, but it's worth it. Let's go map, go to the track and map that envelope MIDI to the on/off. So when I press, when the key is off, it's off. When the key is on, it's on, and it's jumping between those two chains. So quickly, we could just very easily put something like, let's put that back to small. We could get something like a, what have we got here? Let's put the phaser flanger on this and listen to what happens. So when the key is off, it's playing this dry chain. When the key is on, it's going to play this one. So you can see here, I've got that note on. Effect is on. When I let go, effect is off. So that is pretty fun. Let's just leave that in there. Let's group this. And let's just sort of, I mean, I could do this for hours and hours and hours because I think it's so exciting. But it's sort of one of these things. It's a rabbit hole. It's a real rabbit hole. So let's now map our chain selector here. Let's map that to macro 1, and then we'll map that to macro 2 here. You don't really need to do that, but I've done it anyway. And we'll just call this effect selector. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our channel here, which is receiving our MIDI, and we're going to group this envelope MIDI here. So we've got a chain here, and now we're going to create another chain, and then this is going to be the selector for which effect. So in order to do that, we are going to, well, let's first rename it. Let's rename it to effect selector. So the way to think about it is that we have one rack to receive the MIDI event, and then an audio rack to receive the MIDI and choose the effect and choose whether it's on or off. So, and in order to listen to what the MIDI that we want is, we want the key. We want the actual MIDI note key. So for that, we're going to use expression control. Let's put expression control on our effect selector. And we can use this first tab here, set it to remote, and we're going to use key track. And basically what that means is that, so if I play a C3, it's going to key track that, convert that to a signal that's going to get mapped, and then we'll know where to place our effects racks in the chain so that they can be locked to certain MIDI notes. So I'm just going to map this now to our effect selector here. Can I close that down? No, this actually could get a little bit much to manage. Anyway, let's have a look here. So when I press the key, we can see that we are on, I can't actually see what that is. Oh, 61. So C, is that right? Would be quite nice if it told us what number it was. Anyway, so C3 is 61. So if I pressed C sharp, there's 62. Right, so now if I put that chain there on 61, no matter when I press C3, I'm going to get that chain. Can you see where I'm going? So if I make another chain now and put something like a filter on, let's get a auto filter in here, and we can just set it to something like a 16th note kind of wah-wah. And I put that chain on 62. When I press C, we're going to get that chain. When I press C sharp, we're going to get that chain. And then we're going to switch between those two chains. And then when I don't press anything, they'll be off. Let's listen. Let's maybe make this phaser a little bit more like a aggressive flanger. Okay, I'm pressing C. And now when I press C sharp, we go to the wah-wah filter. Isn't that fun? And then when you let go, it's gone. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Oh, I've been having so much fun with this. Now, I can't say how much of a drain this is going to be on your CPU, because if we were to maybe use a chain of something like 127 chains and they've all got their own MIDI envelopes, it might get a little bit much. So I would say just keep going with it until your computer says no, and then back off a little bit. But, you know, I can already see that there's like just loads of stuff to play with. And now that we've kind of got this set up, it's really just a case of filling up things here. If we wanted to add more events, we would just drop them in this rack here. We could rename this to controller, you know, just so that you can keep an eye. It may seem like a lot, but it's actually not. It's actually just two sort of macroed racks. And then whatever you do inside them, it won't be really that difficult. So we could get something else here. Let's maybe get like the auto pan. Let's put an auto pan on another chain, and we move that to whatever that says, 63, which will be D3. Let's have a listen. Okay, that's nothing happening there. So let's turn this up to something like a 16th note sort of chop type thing. Set that like that. Turn the phase down. Yeah. Okay, we're not getting any legato, which is sort of, I wonder if there would be a way to, yeah, you're not really going to get any legato with this, unfortunately, not that I can think of right now. So you're going to it's going to have to be a real kind of one note at a time type thing, not like tying notes together, but that's okay. Pretty cool. Let's go back here and add in some more effects. Let's try and do something a little bit more complicated and interesting now. Let's try and do like multiple events with one key. So let's try something like we could kill the audio and then send it into like a huge reverb. Or maybe we could just freeze it. I suppose a quicker way to do that would just be to use spectral time and freeze it. Let's see what that's like. We can try the other one. Let's see what this one's like first. So let's just we'll set this to manual, and then set this to this note here. So maybe what's interesting here is that the audio is coming in, but there's no audio for it to freeze. So that might not work after all. Yeah, there's no audio coming in for it to freeze. So when we do actually freeze, if we did freeze it, that would not work. Let's try it. Let's just see. Let's get another envelope MIDI in here. Envelope MIDI. This might not work, but well, no, I need to know for sure if it's not going to work. Actually, let's turn that down. Decay down, sustain up, release up, velocity off. Let's map that to the freeze button. Oh, it won't let me do it. Why is that then? Oh, it says for oh yeah, it's working. Okay. No, it's because there's no audio going in. That's interesting. So I tell you what, we might have actually made a mistake here, because if we had these muted, so maybe, yeah, you know what? I had a feeling this would happen. So when we're switching chains here, we're actually kind of killing audio that's going into those chains, where maybe if we did it with mutes, that might be better. So let's actually unmap that from our on-off. And instead, just switch maybe between these two. Let's see if that works. So let's put these on the same chain like that. And then let's go map that to on, off, map that to on, off. Now they're both off, but we need this one to be on. So let's go here. Let's select that. Let's set that to 0 and 1. And see if that's worked. Yes. Okay, and then let's go to this one and let's set that from 1 to 0. Turn that off. Okay, now they're just talking. This might work better. Let's see. No. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just pressing. Oh, that's not so good, but I'm going to leave it in there anyway. And I'm going to try the reverb one that I was thinking of a minute ago. So, yeah, okay. So let's get in a reverb now. Just a quick celebration guzzle of wine. Let's get the reverb in, put that there. Move that to this chain here, 65, which should be now on the E key. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Actually, whilst I'm here, I'm just going to plonk a limiter on the whole lot. Put that there like that. We've got to keep an eye on our ears, you know. We're not getting any younger. We need to take care of ourselves. Right, so, okay, now what I want to do is similar to what I did with earlier on at the start of the video, by killing the input signal. Well, actually, in this context, I sent a little bit of that into the delay. What I want to do is similar, but I want to kill the signal as it comes in the same movement, turn the dry wet up. So we just kind of get this, like, it's a little bit like freezing the reverb, but it's not. It's just sort of sending something into the reverb with a huge decay. So in order to do that, I'm going to need something to kill the volume. There's no sort of input volume here, so we'll just use utility. We'll put utility here. Now in our chain here, again, we could actually be putting these all on specific. Yeah, for this one, I'm going to put this on a specific note only for that for that event. So let's make another chain here, and let's assign that to that note there. That's E3. So let's get that and put that there. So no matter what happens, if I only press E3, I'm going to trigger this event. If I press any of the other keys, that's not going to happen. So let's start with, again, this is when it's getting deep. We're getting deep now, because we're doing racks inside racks that are controlling other racks. So let's get the let's get the envelope MIDI, and then this one we're going to use to trigger the dip in volume. So first we're going to group it, set this to remote, turn the amount up, attack down, velocity off, decay, sustain down, release down a little bit, decay, something like that. Okay, and then now let's map that, click that, go back to our audio track and map that to our gain. Now this is sort of when we're going to have to play a bit of a guessing game here, because it's going all the way from the top to the middle. My guess would be is that is the middle, even though this is minus negative dB to whatever that problem is, probably 24, 36 dB or something. So let's just set the amount here to 50% and see what that gives us. Let's go back. Okay, now it's going roughly from the middle. That's fine. Yeah. Beautiful. Can you see what's happening there? I'm just killing the volume as it goes in and just leaving this decay. So another thing that we could do here, whilst we're in this chain, we've got all of our chains here for this single event is going to have multiple MIDI events in it that will control this sound event. Let's get the expression control in. Just take this one, which is set to random, set it to remote, and map that to, say, the size. So now, when we play the note, we're going to dip the volume and randomize the size of the reverb. I think maybe I could go a little bit higher with the amount here. Let's go for like 60. Yeah. A bit more decay. You can see that's changing. Yeah, so I can actually hear that some of these other effects are being triggered, even though I'm triggering a different note. So it might even be, if you decide to get into this and pursue this as a serious project, you might actually want to think about having everything on separate, literally on separate keys. So you would have a key for your MIDI event, which corresponds to the audio effect. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's maybe try something with like the beat repeat or something. Where is that? Let's see what we can do with the beat repeat. Let's get the beat repeat and put that on this chain here, and we're going to map that. That's going to go to set to 66, which I believe will be. I don't know. I've lost track now. Let's have a look. So that was that one. Yeah, so this is the beat repeat now. So yeah. Okay. So you can see when I press the note. Yeah. So if you wanted that to loop, then we could maybe map a envelope MIDI again to the repeat. Turn the chance down. Let's see if that works. Let's see if this will work. So let's get another envelope MIDI in here. Put that there. And then for this one, maybe I should have been doing this the whole time, but I got so excited I sort of wasn't being methodical enough. Right, let's set this to remote, attack down, decay down, sustain up. Depending on the type of event that you need will make a difference on the type of envelope that you need. So set velocity off, click map, and map that to the repeat button. See if that's worked. Yeah, so now I can just hold it forever. And then when I let go, yeah. Okay, so let's try something else. So the beat repeat can obviously has this variation thing where you can sort of it'll kind of change the grid or whatever, which is very nice. But we can actually use another type of modulator to do that for us in the same event. So yeah, let's rename this to repeater so we can keep track of where we are. So now we're going to do this thing again of like grouping these things up and stacking up multiple MIDI events and getting them to do different things for this one sound event. So let's get the shaper MIDI, and we could maybe make like a sort of sequence. This doesn't snap like horizontally. Not like my function ones do. You should go and buy those. So this is good though. This is very good. So with my functions, they snap horizontally as well. Just a little shameless plug there. So anyway, let's just try something like this. Just make this like sort of little step sequence. Oh my God, I've added another point there. Sort of. I also have something on my Patreon, which is like a step sequencer that you can map or whatever. All right, let's just see if this works. Let's set this to something like half a bar. And now let's map that to the grid. See what happens. Yeah. Let's turn triplets off. Okay, so if we put that into loop, that can now loop now as a sequencer. So you can see in the same event, we've enabled the repeating and we're modulating the grid, but in a cyclical fashion. And that's all happening when I press the note F. Watch. Hang on, let me try and find the snare. Yeah, fun. So this is good. I'm starting to panic a little bit, so I'm just going to quickly do collect all and save because this is quite a lot of work and I don't want to go back. But, you know, it's kind of one of these things where you could make a template and then all you're doing is just going into this effects chain and just you could keep going. You could have 127. If your computer's powerful enough, you could have more racks with inside racks, and then you could switch to a different rack of effects depending on the velocity. I'm not going to do that. How long have we been going? 40 minutes. It's quite a long time. I wonder what else is there we could do. We could maybe do something with like the delay. We could maybe see how the delay responds to the MIDI envelope. Let's put this delay here on 67, which I believe is going to be F sharp. F sharp. Yeah. But let's do something like, let's set it to repitch. Let's turn the dry wet all the way up, the feedback all the way down, and turn the sync off. And then maybe we can use the envelope MIDI or something to screw around with this to get sort of scratchy sounds. Something like that. So let's get a another envelope MIDI envelope, put that there, and map that to F sharp. So only F sharp when we press F sharp. And then let's just start with just the sustain stage of the envelope. Turn velocity off, set that to map. Set that to remote. Click map, and then go back over here and just map it to this delay time. See what happens. So with no key pressed, when I press the key. Okay, let's add a bit of attack here. Very slow attack. Yeah. Not good enough. Oh, that's way too fast. Yeah. There we go. We get a little let's get a little turntable stop. It's gonna come back though. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of fun. I mean, it's not entirely a record stop, but it's close enough. If you do it at the right time, it's pretty past and convincing. Yeah. So if you have like a faster attack, it'll be a bit faster. Yeah. Yeah. I'm supposed to see what the release is like. Yeah, that's fun. Let's just call that stop. Oh, what did I do there? Got my shortcuts wrong. Let's call that stop. And let's maybe call this one stop. Oh, I did the same thing. I'm going to press Command R and I'm pressing Command T. Right, Command R, stop. There we go. All right, that's pretty cool. A little DJ stop. Let's see what it's like with fade on. Yeah, you can sort of get grainy, time stretchy stuff almost. If you do like a slow, really slow attack. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but I'm going to put it back to the re-pitch. Yeah. Okay, so now on to probably the finale, because I mean, like I said, I could keep going. What I might do is that once I finish this video, I might keep making more effects and include them for the Patreon download, because this is kind of a lot of fun. And there's a huge amount of stuff to explore, but I'm not going to do it for the whole of a video. I think you probably get the idea now, and I'd encourage you to go and try this. I think you'd probably find it quite rewarding. And like, I mean, it's fun to have these things, maybe just in a DJ set, even if it's just a simple little thing. Like, you don't want to like macro a load of stuff and then have a dial. You want to have a load of stuff macroed, and then you just want to press a button and you want to know that it's going to be on or off. You can do that using this fashion. Or if you want to just go crazy and have this incredibly mad, complex rack of stuff. Anyway, getting on to the bit about recording it. So now that it's all working with MIDI, we can record this all in as a performance and tidy it up. So let's actually do that. Let's just record a clip now. Oh. So I'm pressing the MIDI notes. I'm recording them in. Oh. Yeah, a little bit of that reverb. There's that filter anyway. That's just quite fun that they're all kind of in parallel. Okay, that's fun. Now let's just sort of quantize all of that. Quantize settings, quantize to eighth notes. All right, let's see how that sounded. So I'm going to turn the monitor off, and now we can listen to what we've just played, and we'll get all our, you know, if you did this with automation, which I'm not saying, you know, that you shouldn't do if you want to do it that way, but if you do it this way, it just might be a little bit quicker or less hassle. So you can just see, I press that note, that's going to happen. I press this note, this is going to happen. You know what I think might be a good thing to do? A good thing to do might be to nudge them all forward ever so slightly. Let's just nudge them all forward. So I'm going to select all and just nudge them forward a 30-second note. I can't even really see what that is. Let's just see what second. Yeah, so we've nudged it forth, a 64th note. So that the initial transient of the sound comes in before the effect takes place, which maybe under different circumstances, if we were kind of doing the crossfading of the racks, you could just apply a little bit of attack to the envelope. But because of the routing thing, I decided that this one was best. Anyway, let's just see what it sounds like. Maybe not the beat repeaty one. Yeah, that sounds better. The freeze sounds better with a bit of lag after the note. That was really good, that tape thing. Okay. So, of course, we can just draw them in. So, you know, we could do something like set this to, set the grid to quarter notes or something. And maybe, where's the window gone? There it is. Maybe make it a little bit longer here. Where's the duplicate button? Yeah, okay. It's maybe like 4 bars long. And then we could just sort of get the pen and just go like blah, 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 like that. And see what that sounds like. No, not that good. Yeah, some of those ones, I think they need to just go forward a touch. Maybe we can do shift? No, command? Command to nudge them forward just a tiny bit. Maybe even a bit more. No. Some of them... I think those time-based ones I was going for were not quite set up as right, but or as well as they could be. But no, it doesn't really work as well. Maybe better to play those ones in. Yeah, this one was better. Let's do another one. Let's do another record. Let's record another take. Oh, where's the thing gone? There we go. That's very, very frustrating. I do like Live 12, but it's doing lots of things that I find a bit annoying. Like if I kind of like sort of want to, you know, resize where I just and that thing goes. Oh no. Anyway, mustn't grumble. Let's just fucking do it. Stop complaining and just do stuff. Yeah. Let's go a little bit faster. Let's go to like 160. That beat repeat works quite well. I'm just pressing a button. There's the button there. Yeah. Let's look at the MIDI. Okay, that'll do. So yeah, we can hear that back, what we just did. Quantize it here, or maybe don't quantize it. Just go for whatever feels right. Oh, hang on, we got to turn monitor to auto. There we go. Yeah, so I think it would be sort of a little bit more like you're never really going to have quite the sort of flexibility of something like artillery or the finger or like stutter effects or whatever. But if you have Live 12 and you don't want to buy those things or you can't afford them, then you can just make your own. And in many ways, you might find that more rewarding because you made it. Okay, I can't really think of anything else that I'd like to really demonstrate. I think you get the idea. Let's just have a little sort of quick look at some of these things. I mean, you could do all kinds of different like auto filter things. Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fine. Let's just hear it with an aim and break quickly. See what that's like, just for laughs, shits and giggles. Oh yeah. So I'm just using that sequence there I just recorded. Let's just do a new one. That one. Actually, maybe one thing that we could do is like quantize it before it goes in. So like I've got this little hack, which is sort of you get the arpeggiator and you set it to the quantize that you want, set it to chord trigger, set it to the quantize that you want, and then get the note length, put the note length before it and set that to the same value, 1/8. And then it kind of creates like a little bit of a quantizer. It's not quite And we might even actually lose the sustain. I don't know, let's see if it works. Let's stop that clip, set this back to in. Yeah, we lose the sustain, unfortunately. Let's turn the gate up, maybe. Or latch, let's try it. Oh, latch just, what does latch do? This is new, latch. Where use the toggle to switch note latch on or off. When latch is enabled and the trigger source is set to note on, notes will be stopped after all keys are released. Okay. Yeah, so I guess this is kind of the problem. You lose the sustain when you do this, which is not really ideal. So I don't know, let's see what sounds in it. No, a lot of them need sustain, and that's not going to work. Okay, never mind. Anyway, I think that'll do now. So let's just do it. Whoa, let's just do a quick collect all and save again for Patreon, for the hardcore crew. Right, let's have a listen. Yeah. Yeah. So the timing is not particularly good. So then I just think what you would need to do is like old-fashioned way, go in and just sort of find a nice sweet spot between the note being dead on and the note being perhaps a touch late. Only a tiny little smidgen. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that very useful and interesting. And if you go and make something like that, I'd be very interested to hear it. And it's really only scratching the surface. There's a huge amount of stuff to explore with that, using MIDI to control stuff in the set, you know, interesting. Right, I'm going to go and put this on my Patreon now, where if you'd like to support me there and get access to this Ableton set plus hundreds of many other Ableton sets and Max things, and you know, you can chat or whatever, or get some private tuition if you want, then your support goes towards making more videos like this, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Have a nice time. See you very soon. Goodbye.